To catch a criminal, you must think like one, understanding that he or she waits in the darkness for their prey like predators. Look for the blind spot of every video camera in the immediate area of the crime. See the assault backwards from the shooting to the disposal of the body in a lake to the first stalking, where she initially made first contact. Someone saw the person stabbing the victim through a window. There were recognizable tracks at the water's edge of the drowning. These are the weekly stories of the missing, the murdered, and those who would seek to rob merchants in broad daylight or accost the innocent in the shadows of night. Someone, somewhere saw what happened, and here are those stories. In August 2016, a 27-year-old United Kingdom man by the name of Michael Lane broke into his ex-girlfriend's house some 6 months after she had first complained to local law enforcement. Now, this was about his troubling behavior. Miss Shauna Grice, aged 19 at the time, had reportedly dumped Michael Lane after only a few months into the relationship, but he continued to stalk her. He even went so far as to install a tracking device underneath her vehicle. Now, all these behaviors Grice repeatedly reported to the Sussex Police Department, only to receive a $124 fine by the same police department for wasting what they called their time. By the time Michael Lane attacked Miss Grice in her bedroom, she had already contacted police 5 times in a 6-month period, none of which triggered a thorough investigation. 5 times in a 6-month period. On the day of the murder, Michael slashed her throat and set her body on fire, then left Shauna's house and went to work as he normally would any other day of the week. It meant nothing to him. But let's go backwards into this case in order to catch a criminal. The scene. Now, let's go to Portslade in the United Kingdom. The blue-collar neighborhood is 36 miles short of the city of London. Now, this tragedy was birthed in a region close to the old docks amid a maze of properties at the offices of Brighton Fire Alarms Company. Now, where in the summer of 2015, a local teenager by the name of Shauna Grice started as the office receptionist. It's a job she loved. Now, age 18 at the time, this was Shauna's big break. A staff position with a spectacular firm, allowing her to save money for the wedding she planned with her boyfriend, a Mr. Ashley Cook. He was a carpenter. They'd been together for 2 years up to that point, but also working at the Brighton Fire Alarm at the time was Mr. Michael Lane, the guy I just referenced. And he was a mechanic and a murderer. At age 26 years old at the time, Lane was 8 years older than Shauna. Lane took an instant shine to the attraction of the new receptionist, and she was flattered by his attention. Although, I might add, she was with her fiancé at the time. Now, indeed, he knew the couple was ultimately headed to the altar. But this meant nothing to his competition for her attention. Now, they saw each other secretly over the next few months as Shauna agonized over which man to choose from. At around Christmas 2015, Shauna and Michael Lane stopped seeing each other, and soon afterwards came the first sign of Lane's campaign of terror against her. First, he tried a very soft approach by sending Shauna a bunch of flowers for her 19th birthday. Shauna complained to her boss at the location that the gift was inappropriate. But all of a sudden, mysteriously, days later, Shauna discovered all of her tires had been slashed outside of her workplace. Amazing. Now, strangely, Michael Lane appeared from nowhere and offered to change them for her for free. The next strange early occurrence was when Ashley Cook, her former fiancé, found his car also had been keyed deep indentations to the paint. Now, this was done. And also there was a note left on the car, and the note read, "Dear Ash, Shauna has and always will cheat on you. Happy New Year." On February the 8th of 2016, Shauna, who had already cut off the relationship, made her first complaint to Sussex Police Department that Lane was intentionally stalking her. The authorities responded immediately. They tracked Lane down and warned him to leave Shauna alone. Don't go nowhere near this young lady. Let her be. Now, Lane complied. Now, he did this for a few days, but not for long. For on March 24th, late at night, Lane chased Shauna down the street where she lived in horror, snatching her phone away from her ear and pulling her hair. Shauna again complained to Sussex Police Department, but when officers questioned Mr. Lane, he showed them older personal mobile texts about him and her, and what he said was proof that they were still in a relationship together. He lied. Mr. Lane had become adept at covering his tail when it came to putting distance between himself and the police while he pursued Shauna at the same time. His need to break off the relationship was getting stronger and stronger. For her, yes, but not for him. Now, Sussex Police made a critical decision that would have far-reaching consequences and which forms a central part of an inquiry into the way they handled this particular case after her death. Officers mistakenly judged that because she had not told them that she was in an on and off relationship with Shauna, not Lane, who should be punished for going to the police. So they thought she should be punished, not him. After communicating her fears to police a second time, Shauna was fined a $124 fine for what police considered, as I said, wasting police time. Now, meanwhile, Lane, though arrested for assault, escaped imprisonment upon his release, also easily, without charge, to stalk her yet another day. The message that police had sent to Shauna was that it was up to her, not him, to produce real evidence she was being stalked by Lane. Fearing for her life, Shauna arranged a system whereby her friends and family would contact each other if no one had seen or heard of her for a couple of hours. She needed this. So when Lane got wind of this, he readjusted his methods of stalking and continued his game plan. Also, Shauna now knew that Lane had stored her private text messages to him and was ready to use them against her to the police or anybody else. He had shown them to police in the past. She feared he would share them with others. So after being fined, Shauna immediately quit her job at Brighton Fire Alarms, a job which she loved. Lane was suspended a few weeks later and resigned therein in protest. He was mad he was out of there. Now, but despite everything, Shauna stayed in contact with Lane. Now, it is felt that maybe she felt sorry for him. The precise reason is unclear. The trial judge would later observe that it was a complex relationship. In a future trial, he would have this to say. Shauna was suspiciously concerned about Lane's conduct to make repeated complaints to the police. But on the other hand, she was also attracted to you. The judge told Michael Lane this. Because of her age and inexperience in life, Shauna did not know how to deal with you. And tragically, when she sought help from the police, she received none. Observers believe Shauna was struggling to manage an impossible relationship. Others thought that she was terrified by Lane's threats to commit suicide if she stopped seeing him. And a lot of people in controlling relationships and stalking relationships use these tactics to keep the person engaged. On July 8, 2016, Shauna made her choice. She was staying with her long-term boyfriend, and Mr. Ashley.
You're watching MNN, the men's channel.
Michael Lane was told to clear out his bits and pieces he had left at her house. What she didn't know is that he had secretly taken the backdoor key on his way out of the residence. He returned early the next morning and illegally entered her home, hovering over her while she pretended to sleep in her own bed. But she hoped he would leave. Then, without warning, he left. Now, Shauna decided to do what Sussex Police had challenged her to do. Bring them hard evidence that she was being stalked. The 19-year-old called Lane and secretly recorded their conversation for proof of him losing his mental faculties.
Just don't do it again. And if you come near the house again,
I won't come near the house again. I won't contact you again. Okay?
I think that's best.
Shauna Grice recorded this telephone conversation with her boyfriend in July 2016. It was a desperate attempt to prove to police that Michael Lane was stalking her.
Why did you take the key in the first place?
I wanted to see you and I've been talking to you and I knew you wouldn't let me in otherwise.
Lane had crept into her home to watch her sleep after stealing her house key. She reported Lane to police for harassment 5 times over 6 months before he murdered her, slitting her throat. Today, PC Trevor Godfrey, who was an investigating officer in the case, seen here in the blue shirt and blue tie, was found liable for elements of misconduct. The hearing held here learned that Lane had only ever been cautioned and warned to stay away from Shana, yet she was fined £90 for wasting police time. The Police Federation believe PC Godfrey's actions were appropriate.
They must be considered on the information they knew at the time, what they did and why they did it, and how that is recorded and rationale. If that's found to be at fault or found to be lacking, then of course they must be held accountable for those actions. But actually they shouldn't be held accountable because of a death or because of something that happened in the future.
But how officers at Sussex Police are now trained when dealing with stalking victims has changed.
The force has made huge improvements. You know, they have a stalking improvement plan. We're getting all new recruits, get training around stalking. But what it also showed was that other forces nationally are woefully behind. They're not properly risk assessing victims. And of course, if you don't get that risk assessment right in the first place, the whole policing response that then follows in behind can be inadequate.
And inadequate is exactly the kind of care Shana Grice received. A young woman who went to police for protection, who was murdered by the very person she'd asked them to protect her from.
Lane returned the key later that day, but officers were waiting for him when he did. He confessed to illegally entering her home, but wasn't charged with breaking and entering or with stalking. He was merely cautioned. Can you imagine? Caution for theft of a key? Another critical decision that has concerned investigators and will be featured prominently in disciplinary actions scheduled after her murder trial. So despite his pathetic appeal for help, his phone call and his police caution, Lane did not let up. In the next 24 hours, he bombarded Shana with heavy breathing phone calls, which, just like in the movies, so silly. And he secretly fitted a tracker underneath her Renault Clio car. Shana never knew it was there, but noticed in her rearview mirror that Lane was following her and turning up at pubs and clubs wherever she went with her friends. Now, and the creepiest thing since stalking was invented, every 10 days, late at night, Lane would return to change the batteries in the tracker on her vehicle. On the day of the murder at approximately 7:30 a.m. on August 25, 2016, 8 months after the stalking began, Lane watched from a hiding place as Shauna's boyfriend and her 2 roommates left for work. Knowing Shauna was alone, Lane entered the house, took a knife from the kitchen, caught Shauna off balance, overpowered her, and cut her throat in one smooth motion, left to right. He then tried, but ultimately failed, to set the room on fire, to cover the murder scene and destroy any evidence, including Shauna's body. Closed-circuit TV would capture him buying cans of gasoline at the supermarket car park at the previous evening on closed-circuit TV around her neighborhood, also recorded him walking towards Shauna's address and visiting a cash machine where, after killing Shauna, he used her card to withdraw $82 from her account. And here is the actual video of an excerpt from Michael's interview with police detectives following the murder. Upon a thorough investigation, Michael was arrested.
At about 9:45 yesterday morning, Shana Grice was found dead in her bedroom. Tell me what happened to her. Well, when her body was found, it was clear that someone had assaulted her, and they'd tried to set fire to her body. So tell me what you know about what happened to her yesterday.
I only know what I've been told since being in here.
Okay, so having had a moment, what do you want to tell us?
You ain't going to believe me, but it's up to you. In the morning, I did go to Shana's. After I'd been to Valley Road shops,
Yeah.
and I was seen going back and parked up. When I went past her road, her car was still there,
Okay.
which I knew was odd because she was meant to be. I knew she had started work at 8:30, and that was about the time. It was about 8:20, so I knew she was about to have left for work. So I went round, walked round there, the door was open. The front door was open.
Wide open or unlocked?
No, it was open, no, it wasn't wide open, but it was like half open. So I went in there, her bedroom door was open, half open again, and she was on the floor.
Tell me about your thought process then, about what made you think, right, rather than just calling the police and the ambulance, I'm going to just leave.
Because I was scared. I didn't know what. I'd never seen the dead body. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know.
Okay, so let's go with this idea that you're scared. Talk me through that. What were you scared would happen?
The police would turn up and think that I did it.
At his trial in Lewis Crown Court in March 2017, despite his plea of not guilty, Michael Lane was convicted of Shauna's murder and jailed for a minimum of 25 years. The trial judge, Sir Nicholas Green, told Lane, "You robbed Shauna of her life, and you have caused grief untold to her family and friends." He continued on by saying, "This was a cold-blooded murder. I have not detected in you any appreciation of the devastation you have caused, nor have I detected remorse. Now, insofar as I have detected emotion in you, it has been determined to do that you are trying to protect yourself only. You have been the one person you have felt sorry for." Additionally, the judge also had powerful criticism for the Sussex Police Department. So, these cases go on every day of the week, and we're going to bring you as many as we can. For To Catch a Criminal, this is Charles Rivers. Thank you.